So some of the interviews, they say, so why are you sitting like that on stage? I said, this is how all the songs were written. Not only mine, everybody. I'm telling you, all the big rock songs that you can think of. I mean, all of them, the Stones, the Kinks, the Who, the Hollies, the Animals. We were sitting around in cold water flats, lying on the floor on cushions, and lying on our back, playing guitar, writing songs. And so I thought, well, I'll just do it this way on this tour. And I'm telling you, even the 70s big songs too. I checked with Jimmy Page. I said, Jimmy, you wrote all the songs on acoustic guitars and pianos, right? Yeah, how else can we do it, he said. You can't set up a rock and roll band in your front room. And it's true. But also when I was reading my interviews, and it seems like on this tour, I tell stories. And I don't know when I begin to tell them, but as I was thinking of the cross-legged bit there, I have to tell you that there's certain changes that happened in the 60s that were so extreme for us artists, me and the Beatles especially, because we were pals. There was a time when we could actually visit each other in our homes, and the streets were empty on a Sunday. Imagine the Edgefield Road. This is a main road in London, absolutely empty. No cars, sun shining, late summer, 1966. I'm quietly sitting cross-legged in my flat, writing songs, and there's not a sound to be heard outside. Birds in the tree, maybe. Already, things hadn't taken us into the fame that was coming for us. And I was quietly sitting there with my little tape recorder, silver with reel-to-reel, a Swiss tape recorder, and I was quietly writing songs when the doorbell rang. Ding dong! I go to the door. Who could it be? There's nobody on the street, no cars, there's not a sound anywhere. I open the door, and there's Paul McCartney. He's got the suit on, the same uniform he's wearing now. The shirt, no tie. He's got a guitar around his neck. And he says to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing songs." "What are you doing?" I says, "I'm writing songs too. Can I come in?" So in comes Paul, shuts the door, off with the shoes, sits down, he's got his guitar. So I say to him, "So what have you got?" Because we would meet in those quiet times still and see what each other were writing. I said, "What have you got?" And he said, "I've got this." The Edgefield Road's absolutely empty, okay? No cars. It's a Sunday. You can't hear anything in this city except Paul McCartney singing this. Olena Tunji, blowing his mind in the dark with a pipe full of clay. What can you say, Olena Tunji? I say, "Who's Olena Tunji?" He says, "Oh, it's a guy I'm reading about in a book." Any old words would be okay when you get the song going. You just stick them onto the melody and see if they work. So, he said, "What have you got?" So I played a couple of my songs. And then the doorbell rang again. Ding dong. Who could it be? So I go to the door and open it, and it's a perfectly young 18-year-old English policeman in a uniform with the bobby's hat. Paul comes up behind me and leans over my shoulder, looks at the bobby. The bobby looks at Paul and says, "Oh, it's you, Mr. McCartney," and comes to full attention and salutes. So I turned to Paul and I said, "Is that how it is with you guys?" Paul says, "I'm afraid it is, Tom. Right now, we're like royalty." And then we look at the copper again, and the young policeman looks at Paul. And this is the bit of the story even I don't think happened. The policeman looks at Paul and says, "Is that your car downstairs, Mr. McCartney? An Aston Martin?" "Yeah. With one wheel on the pavement and the other 3 on the road?" "Yeah. And the door open?" "Yeah. And the radio playing?" "Yeah." A pause. Then the young policeman says, "If you give me the keys, Mr. McCartney, I'll park it for you." It gives the guys the keys. The door shuts. We sit cross-legged again on the tatami mats. That's right. I had Japanese tatami mats in the apartment. And the real reason why Paul's come round begins. He says, "I've got this kid song, and Don, you're the master of the kid songs, and I'm missing a line in the song." So I think, McCartney's missing a line in one of his songs. Sure, I know up the road in his little bijou house, he's got a piano. And if he fell on the piano, by the time he picked himself up, he'd have written 3 tunes. And he's asking me for a line. Then I remembered, there are holes in Beatles songs. And sometimes Ringo throws a word in. And sometimes Big Mal Evans, the road manager, he would throw a line in. So I said, "Well, what is it?" And he goes, "In the town where I was born, lived a man who sailed to sea. It was Yellow Submarine in the works." And he gets to this point. I've got this line here and I can't think of one, Don. La la la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la la. So I say, "Okay, give me a minute, Paul." And I take my guitar into my bedroom and I come back with this. "Sky of blue and sea of green in a yellow submarine." And Paul says, "That'll do." Then the doorbell rings again. Bong, bong. And so we both go to the door, and there's the policeman. And he says, "Here's your keys, Mr. McCartney." Paul says, "Thank you very much." And we look at the policeman, and he comes to full attention again and salutes. And he's gone. And we shut the door. And we say goodbye. And another adventure in that long, lazy summer of '66 came to a close. And in a few days' time, I joined Paul again and everybody in the entertainment world to talk. And it seems there's a movie coming called The Yellow Submarine. But remember this, I tell my audiences now, this Yellow Submarine is not really just a kid's toy. The Yellow Submarine is symbolic of the life that these 4 guys were slowly having to live, withdrawn from what we call the real world and into an ivory tower, forced there by this super fame that was coming more and more. And their friends were all aboard. It's true, like the song says. I was one of them. Those that would talk to them normal, not be overwhelmed and in awe of this extraordinary thing that was happening. But that song has helped millions of young people all over the world. And I wrote one of the lines. Yellow submarine, yellow submarine, yellow submarine. But soon, the tours were coming bigger and bigger. Gypsy Dave and I'll tell you more about Gypsy Dave in the second half. Gypsy Dave and I, we'd arrived in an American airport, and we swore we saw ourselves leaving. That's how busy we were. Sometimes we'd have to go to the Caribbean to rest. And when you go down to the Caribbean, often the songwriter brings back a song This is one of my singles. It's called There Is a Mountain.